Not a problem. Okay, everybody. Thank you very much for having me, Rob. My name is Stephen Greene, and I've been asked to talk about how we can encourage students to bring realia into the classroom. I've interpreted this in quite a broad way, and I have chosen to look at it in terms of how we can bring the outside world into the classroom. And I thought about this because as a student of Portuguese, I've had a few classes at various times, and a lot of the time they're talking about things that I'm just not interested in. Sometimes it's very academic, sometimes it's about stuff that happened 40 years ago. Material or whatever the teacher was interested in was not what I was interested in. So I thought what I'd talk about today is real things from outside the classroom. And I'm going to start by talking about linguistic landscapes. I'll move on to talk about music, then current affairs, TV and film, and finally work. A couple of people have mentioned in their comments that there's no video. I turned it off because we're having problems with internet here. So if I have the video on, it will slow down everything. So this way we can concentrate on my dulcet tones of my voice. Okay, this image, I think this it comes from a project I'm involved in with linguistic landscapes. And it kind of goes to part of what I want to talk about. Broken relationships. This is something that interests all of us. Most of us, unfortunately, have had some sort of broken relationship. And this is real life. And by bringing real life into the classroom, we can make it more relevant to our students. If it's more relevant, I think it's more likely to stick in our students' brains, and they're more likely to come back to other classes in the future. So let's start with linguistic landscapes. Linguistic landscape is anything that you see around you, any language that you see. It could be graffiti, it could be the names of a shop, it could be official government language, it could be leaflets, anything at all as you're walking down the street. I think linguistic landscapes is inherently interesting, but I would do, being interested in language. But it also helps raise critical thinking. When we see something in a different language, why has somebody chosen to use that language? It's relevant to our students because it's their landscape, it's their environment, it's the things that they see around them every day, but often we don't notice it. We see them, but we don't notice it. It's also free, totally free. Anybody can interact with their linguistic landscapes, and it's democratic. You know, it's available to everybody. You don't need to have money. You don't need to have a certain type of education. All you need to be able to do is use your eyes to see what's going on around you. You don't even need to be able to read. My son is 3. Well, he started when he was 3, but now he's 4. But he's always interacting with the images that he sees. It doesn't have to just be words. And some things that I've done to get my students involved is having a survey. I get my students to take photographs of images that they see around them. They bring them into class, and we discuss them. This particular survey was the names of buildings. And I asked my students just to take photographs of all the names of the buildings they see around them. They brought them into the class, and we tried to categorize them. The categories such as aspirational names, names about cities, names about people, names that make no sense at all. All of these images come from a linguistic landscapes group on the internet, so they come from all over the world. And I'll give you some information on how to join that later. So I've had great success bringing linguistic landscapes into the classroom. And it doesn't have to just be a survey. All of these sites here use if, so it leads into structure as well. Once you collect a few images, you can start to see patterns, and you can start to think of how you can use them in class and get your students to pay attention to how to use them in class as well. One particular group that I did a project with this, I did it for 3 classes. And 6 months later, students were still bringing photographs into class to try to talk about them. If this doesn't help students' motivation for language, I don't know what will. But it's not just linguistic landscapes, music as well. Now, we've all had music in class. We get music with filling in the gaps and comes with the books. But this is about the teacher. The teacher of the material leads it. What I've done with my students, especially teenage students, I get them to bring in music that they want to listen to in class. So when there's an active, I want people standing up and walking around, I put their songs on. And over time, we build up our library, our playlist. I put their songs onto Spotify, and we have a class playlist. I also get them to create their own activities with music that they like, not what I like. And again, I've met students years after doing this, and they still remember these activities. Also, when teaching a structure, for example, I was teaching just the rather the other day, and I asked students for homework, go to YouTube and find songs with the word rather, and they had to bring these songs in, talk about the meaning in the songs, talk about what the songs were about, any other language that they found. I didn't do anything else in that class. We spent the whole class talking about songs that my students found. Current affairs. One problem with current affairs is that when we spring it on our students, they often have nothing to say. They feel as if they don't know enough, or they are embarrassed to talk about it. So what I like to do with my students is say, next week we're going to talk about an aspect of current affairs. And that gives them a week to prepare. And then they are able to bring in their own ideas, and they can find texts that they've read, they can watch news programs, and then they're ready to talk about them. Something else that I can do is give them a menu. Next class, we're going to talk about a couple of these things. We've got five options. You decide which ones you want to talk about. And then they bring in their own material that they have found. TV and films. Again, we've all used clips in the classroom. Why not get our students to do this? Why not tell them how they can use subtitles? Show them how to find their own language. I don't know about other countries, but here in Brazil, we have a lot of people with access to cable television, and they have the option of having it dubbed into Portuguese, having it with English and subtitles, or having no subtitles. We can show them how to go from dubbing it in Portuguese, then watch it with English subtitles, and watch it without any subtitles. And then they have to bring examples of language that they have found in the classroom. And we can discuss these examples of language. And finally, perhaps the most obvious one is work. We can very easily get our students to bring material from work. Even if it's in their first language, we can talk about how they would say this in English. We can look at any printed material, any translations that they've got into English. How could we do it differently? How could we make it more formal? How could we make it more informal? But again, this is their material. It's nothing to do with me. So I think this makes it a lot more relevant to them. And they're going to remember it. You know, they're going to see this again and again. And they will pay attention to it in the future. As I said, all of these images have come from a project I run on Facebook for linguistic landscapes. We call it MULL, M-U-L-L, which stands for Map of the Urban Linguistic Landscape. The address for MULL is here on Facebook. If you just do a search for MULL, we are usually one of the first couple of things that come up. It's a great group of mainly English teachers, but we have other people as well who are just interested in language. And the idea is that people take photographs from wherever they are of interesting language. And whatever that language is, if you find it interesting, it meets the criteria. It doesn't have to be in English. It can be any language you like. If it's not in English, we ask for a translation so that other people can interact with it. So please, I'd love you to come and join us on our Facebook group. We have about 3,000 people at the moment. It's very active. We have a lot of photographs every day and some brilliant examples. you'd like to get in touch with me personally, my email is at the top. And I also have a couple of websites and blogs that I'd love you to follow me if you can. Teach English is about teaching English, and Head of the Herd is about my own life living in Curitiba, bringing up a bilingual family. Right, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Right, Stephen, thanks so much. Thanks for being here. You can flip on your camera maybe, just so people can see what you look like. Sorry, people.
Sure they want to.
Yeah. So that's Stephen. Thanks, buddy, and we'll talk soon. We have lots of work for March.